Well, good morning folks. I don't know how well you can see me. Yeah, first match I've filmed for quite a long time. I'm at Boddington's. This is the Ringers Boddington pairs. I have fished a few this year, but the weather's just been horrendous. The one occasion where the weather kind of behaved itself, I had a problem with my camera, so I did try filming it, but yeah, it wouldn't have been good footage, so I do apologise. But yeah, I'm at Boddington's today, like I say, for the Ringers pairs. I'm on peg 60, and my partner Mark Leader is on peg 100. It's absolutely freezing, and I don't know if you can make it out unless it just looks like a bad camera shot, but it's not. That's actually fog. You can't really see kind of any further. There's my peg, as you can see there, number 60, and there's the steps obviously going out to the water, which you can't really see. I can't really see much further than about 10 metres out there at the moment, because it's yeah, really foggy. Bit strange fishing matches at the moment, because obviously there's no kind of draw where you all sort of like have a bit of banter before you go out. It's all done online. I'm going to try and import a bit of the draw that they did live last night over Facebook. Yeah, put a little bet out on there if I can get it going. Apologies if I can't. And yeah, you just sort of turn up, you know what peg you're going to be fishing, and you kind of rock up onto it. Sorry, something on the camera there. Yeah, and just crack on. Then obviously you've got the weigh-in, which is sort of done at social distancing. No one can follow the scales, and then you don't really know how you've done because everything's posted kind of online. So yeah, it's all a little bit strange. So it's yeah, the atmosphere for the videos is going to be a bit different. Anyway, like I say, here he goes, Mr. Webby. How you doing, Webby? All right?
Only one that had a bite.
I'm just filming at the minute, buddy. So, say hello to camera.
Hello, boy.
Thank you, Steve, through the fog. So, anyway, looks like John wants to have a bit of a chat, so I'll come back to you in a minute. Okay, well, I'll resume. John wanted to have a little bit of a chat. But yeah, so basically, like I say, I'm on peg 60 today. Which is going to be quite tough. It's going to be, the whole lake's going to be tough. It's absolutely freezing. It sort of said 3 degrees in my car this morning, and I don't think it's meant to get above that. So I've just seen a fish roll out there actually at about 10 metres. So interesting. There's no wind, so it's just flat calm of the water that you can see. Yeah, my approach today is just to get a bite, and if I can, that'd be great. And Mark is on peg 100. Should be good for 4 or 5 fish, but you just never know. Obviously it just could the whole place could just fish dire, because it really has taken a bit of a plummet, the old temperature this week. Anyway, there's not going to be a lot of fishing action, so what I plan to do is talk through my summer approach to Boddington's. A lot of the guys get a lot of messages saying, you know, how would you do this, how would you do that in these conditions? And so obviously I've got a winter approach, which is today. I can talk through that, which really there's not a great deal to go through really, but obviously a summer approach is completely different. So it's yeah, it's an interesting change on the fishery. So I'm going to do that while I'm waiting for the tip to go round, or if I get set up dead early and the fog lifts a bit, then I should do a bit of that then. Right, I'm going to crack on, start getting my tackle sorted. I've got, yeah, I'm here quite early actually. It's only about 8 o'clock, just gone 8, so don't start fishing till 10, so I've got plenty of time. So yeah, once I'm set up, I should come back to you, so I'll see you in a bit. Cheers. Right guys, well, I'm all set up now. Yeah, that's me for the day. And there's the lake, as you can see. You can't see hardly anything out there. It's still thick fog. There's a few swans just sort of swimming over there. Don't know if you can see them, just coming into shot. But yeah, proper foggy this morning. So I've got, yeah, they've pegged it. Phil and Steve have pegged it every other peg today. We ain't got so many anglers on it today because there was another match booked on the down wall. So I think we've got 19 pairs fishing today. I say my partner's up on peg 100, so yeah, half decent area up there, but obviously there are some other good pegs around there as well. So as you can see, I've actually only got the one rod set up today. Reason being for that is I'm not expecting many bites, so I've actually gone for the 14-foot rod, which is the Free Spirit power feeder. It's the distance version. They actually call it the 420, I think it is. Let's just have a look. See, sit down on my box. Yeah, so you see that there, guys. That's in focus. There you go. Yeah, I've got that coupled with the Daiwa 25QD distance reel. Yeah, I'm just going to be chucking it a long way all day long. So, we've got a little friend here. Come have a little feed up. Hello, Mr. Swan. Might be my only interest today, a bit of bird life. But yeah, it's going to be very difficult. But so I'm going to start chucking it a long way. I'm going to start off at 80 metres, which is very unusual for me. But I just don't think there's any point messing around in these pegs. Yeah, just start 8 metres, try and give myself a bit of room out there if I can, try and get my own bit of water. I think that's the only chance I've really got of maybe getting a bite, and then just work my way out as far as I can go, to be honest with you, till I get one. Hopefully it'll go around at 80 with a bit of luck. So that's my approach today. I've just got the one rod set up. I've not even bothered setting another rod up because, yeah, I just really don't think there's any point. Just set the distance rod up to really try and start chucking it a long way and just hope it goes round. Fishing with the Guru hybrid feeder, as you can see. It's the X-Safe version with the elastic in it. You can see that there. Standard bayonet hook length with a QM1 size 10 hook on. Nothing complicated, fairly simple. Quite relaxing fishing, really. So yeah, today, because I'm going to have a bit of time, I want to talk about my approach to this venue in the summertime. I know it's a bit strange, but obviously when I'm fishing here in the summertime, I don't really have much of a chance to obviously to film, because it's quite busy fishing. Complete opposite to what it's going to be today. So yeah, I'd like to go over that. But yeah, one of the things I'd like to explain as well is why I've gone over to Free Spirit rods. And I'll go into a bit more detail about that in a bit. But basically, the reason why I went over to them was I actually met a chap called Simeon Bond, who is the owner of Free Spirit Match and the designer of the rods, on one of these matches up here, and just got talking to him, and he actually loaned me, which was very good of him, the 13-foot distance feeder rod. And he also loaned me an 11-foot feeder light, which is obviously not for distance fishing. It's normally conventional feeder fishing for skimmers and roach and things like that. And he loaned me those two rods. I fished with the 13-foot distance rod, and as you know, I used to fish with the SLRs prior, and I was really impressed with it. The casting accuracy was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Obviously the way the rods are designed, it was aiding my casting as well, getting the distance I needed, and it's just the way the rods were made, which I'll go into a bit of detail, but you could, as soon as you pick the rod up, you could feel that it was balanced right, and it just felt quality, and it just felt right. And for those of you who have fished with lots of different types of rods and different styles of rods, you'll know what I mean. But when you pick a rod up, that you know it feels right, and it just did. I then went for a trip down to Tamar, which is the reason why he gave me the feeder light, because I had a festival up there, as you know. I've done a video, and wow, I used that little feeder light rod, and that was just something else. That was unbelievable, and that had the abbreviated butt on it as well, which I didn't think I'd like, but actually playing the fish with that abbreviated butt made me realise you could feel even more through the rod. And talk about a balanced rod, that rod is just absolutely perfect. I wouldn't change anything on it whatsoever. So I was really impressed. So they're the reasons why I then decided to move over to the Free Spirit rods, and all my rods now are Free Spirit rods. So what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to talk about my summer approach, and obviously I'll go over the rods that I use in my summer approach, and why, and so on and so forth. But before I do that, I just want to talk a bit of technical information about these Free Spirit rods, because there's been a lot of obviously publicity. There's a lot of anglers using them now. There's other anglers saying they wouldn't use them, but I just want to go over a little bit about the technology of the rods and why they are so good. I'm no expert in it, but I've been speaking to Simeon Bond, or Bondi, and he's been explaining to me over the time that I've been using the rods why they are so good. And I just think a lot of you would be interested, because a lot of people sort of say, oh, why do you want to pay that amount for a rod? But the high S versions, which is what I use, obviously there are CTX version as well, and they are, for the money, the CTX version of the Free Spirit rods are absolutely fantastic. There's no other rods on the market at that price range that are as quality as what they are. When you move up to the high S range, which is what I've got, there is a difference and in the way they're made and the material that they're made from. So I'll just go over that. So I'll come back to you in a minute, and I'll talk to you a bit more about the technical side of the Free Spirit rods. See you in a bit. Right, just going to talk a bit more technical information about the Free Spirit rods. So for those of you that are interested, I've actually cheated. I've written myself some notes down here, because yeah, I just want to make sure you get all the correct information and I don't say anything that's out of turn. So yeah, I spoke about this CTX range, and obviously, you know, explained that for the price bracket that they're in, there's nothing else out there like it. So for those of you that don't want to step up to the highest range of rods, then I'd highly recommend the Free Spirit CTX range of rods, and they've got a full range of whatever you need, and they are all fantastic rods, built with really good high grade carbon, and all built off what they call off the spine as well. And yeah, the casting range and the casting aid that you get on a CTX, it's the same as the high S. They are really good rods. So yeah, recommend them. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the high S versions. The high S version is obviously the higher end range of the Free Spirit rods, and there's some sort of specific stuff that Simeon's done to make them a very good rod. First of all, and the main thing, on the feeder rods, they've all got hollow tips, and it's very hard, and it's taken him years to get that design right. And the reason it's such a good thing to have is when you're casting, especially if you're casting distance, but not just distance, when you're casting, you get that kind of thrapping effect at the end of the rod. It does this, and the line can twist around the end of the tip and crack. You get a crack off, and especially obviously if you're casting distances, that can then snap your tip as well. And when tips they're expensive now on rods, you know, they range anything from sort of like 25 quid up to, you know, 60 quid. Some might even be more than that. So you really don't want to be snapping them, and you don't want to be cracking off either, because it's a real pain in the backside. It happens to all of us, you know, every now and then it happens, but you know, you don't want to be doing it on a regular basis. So what that does, the hollow tip, is it just stops that action really quick. So you do your cast, boom, and the actual action of the rod, it just stops frapping really quickly. And that's because they've got these hollow tips on. Also, it gives you a better balance of the rod, because obviously the rod's hollow. So what you don't want on the end is a solid carbon tip, because then the balance of the rod is slightly different. So it is a slightly different action, I will admit, and the bite action's slightly different as well. So you've got to get the right tip, but it does a full range of tips for them. Yeah, I personally prefer it, and I think it's, you know, for people that are getting crack-offs all the time. I know they've moved over to the high S versions, which has got the hollow tips, and all of a sudden their crack-offs have stopped. So yeah, that's one of the main things with the high S ranges. The other thing is the carbon that Free Spirit use for the high S range. This is a really high grade aviation carbon. No other rod manufacturer uses it, and the beauty of this carbon is it has a really low resin content. Now what that means is that the rod it'll be a lot lighter, it'll be a lot thinner, so the actual balance of the rod is going to be a lot better. That's one thing. Another reason it's fantastic having a low resin content is everyone that's had rods and used them a lot, you know, for a few years, kind of tend to find that the rod goes a little bit soft, and it hasn't quite got the action it had, and that's because the resin inside the carbon starts breaking down. A lot of people may not notice it, but for the guys that fish, you know, sort of high-end matches using the rods all the time, you start to notice it. Well, these rods have got such a low resin content, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't degrade, doesn't break down. So your rod stays perfectly balanced, perfectly, you know, it keeps its stiffness and action that you want all the way through. So that's one of the reasons why having a low resin content is absolutely fantastic, as well as obviously it just keeps the rod being lighter. The other good thing about it is all the high-S versions of rods, they don't have any resin or lacquer on the outside of the rod. If I show you here, it's just literally, and I'm scratching that quite hard, you can hear that, and it doesn't mark it at all. And that's because of this carbon, again, the type of carbon we've got, and there's not a lot of resin in it. So there's no need to lacquer the rods or put resin over the tops of the rods, because the rods are built very, very well. A lot of rod manufacturers, they're making so many rods that you get little imperfections, but by lacquering the rods you can't see them. You don't get away with that with a Free Spirit rod because it's got no lacquer on it. But the other good thing about it is it's not going to get scratched. Whereas when you've got lacquer on them, they all get scratched and marked, and the lacquer starts, you can get moisture underneath them, it can start lifting. You ain't going to get any of that with these rods. They're going to just stay perfect. So that's another great thing. The other thing, and it's the same with the CTX version of rods, all the Free Spirit rods are built off the spine. A lot of rods, because of the way they're mass produced, they're not actually built off the spine, and the rods can slightly twist or whatever. When these are all built perfectly off the spine, which means that down the spine of the rod, which is this part here, it keeps its strength. So, and it's not twisting, it's perfectly straight. So when you line your eyes up, you know that the spine of that rod is all the way down what I call the spine of the rod, rather than it twisting and moving around. So when you're casting, you're not going to get any twist in that rod, so it's not going to go left, it's not going to go right. If it does, then it's down to the angler, not the rod. It just gives you so much more accuracy and consistency. So, and every single Free Spirit rod that's made is built like that, including the CTX versions. So there's a lot of things there that that come with these rods, and that's, you know, I didn't know any of this. Obviously, I just picked the rod up and thought, yeah, this is really good. But that's the reason it's really good. All of these points that I've just mentioned are the reasons why the Free Spirit rods are really good. And I really recommend them. I'm not here as a sales rep. I'm just telling you that's the reason why I've moved over to the Free Spirit rods. You pick them up and use them, you know that they're a really good quality rod. It was then after that, then obviously I was asking questions and found out how they're made and why they're made the way they are. And yeah, highly recommend them. CTX versions and the high-S versions. Like I say, they do a full range of the highest versions, not just feeder rods, they do waggler rods, which I will actually talk to you about my summer approach to this lake, and I'll go over the rods and the reasons why I fish the way I do. So, okay, anyway, hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into the Free Spirit rods. And obviously, if any of you are then interested, you can obviously, by watching this video, it then gives you, you know, you're not going to be wasting your money. You know you're going to be getting a bit of kit that's going to last. And if there's, you know, any issues with it whatsoever, you know, Free Spirit are based in the UK. Simeon, he comes out and fishes a lot of the matches, so he's been around in the angling industry a long time. He'll sort any issues out that you have. Not that you're going to have any, I don't know anyone that has had any, but but I'm sure, you know, you get the odd thing happen. And I have heard, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. I have heard that if you wanted something specifically done with a rod, that they can tailor that. So I know they have done that for certain people. They've had, maybe the butt slightly longer or the butt slightly shorter on a certain particular rod. So because they are UK based, yeah, you can have any of that done as well. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now. Probably got about half an hour to go before I'm going to start fishing, so I just need to sort some of my bait out. And then I shall talk to you about my summer approach. So I'll speak to you soon. Less than a minute now to the all in. Right, let's go for the big chuck. So we don't have a crack off on the first cast. Righto! Can't see where I'm casting to, it's just thick fog here. There you go. Crack off first cast. Fantastic. I got that on camera. Oh dear. Better set back up again. Right then guys, well that really wasn't the start I wanted. Yeah, last night I went and I put some new shock leader on. I got the Guru Shield. They didn't have the 12 pound, which is what I wanted, but they had the 10 pound, and I thought that'd be okay. Yeah, put that on. And first cast, obviously you've seen it cracked off. It was actually right on the loop, so where the actual feeder itself loops on, it's just literally pulled through the line. Thought it might have just been a one-off, might have had a bit of a weakness in it. Did it again, cast out, snap, exactly the same again. So that's come off. I don't know how long that line's been in the shop, but yeah, it will be going back anyway. Yeah, not too impressed with that. Luckily, colleague on the end peg down there, Tony Johnson, has lent me some Dow Tournament ST. So I've got that on now, and that went straight out there. So it's been out there half an hour now, and yeah, I've not had a sign, but I'm not expecting it straight away, you know. So but yeah, they're going to be long casts today, so they're probably going to be 45 minutes to 50-minute casts. Anyway, so now we've got that drama out of the way, I'll yeah, just go over my summer approach here at Boddington's. Obviously not like today because it's obviously freezing cold. The fog's slowly starting to lift, as you can see, but then we think, oh, it's going, and all of a sudden it comes back down again. So yeah, I hope you can see me okay. I'll just go through the rods that I use here. First of all, on a summer approach, I always set up a pellet waggler rod, and I use the 12-foot pellet waggler rod. It's obviously the highest version of the Free Spirit. Reason I use the 12-foot rather than 11-foot, because they do obviously different lengths, is just two reasons. One, because the fish can actually be quite a way out, and you know, right at the limit of your catapult distance. They could be 30 meters. So you need a decent sort of size rod, decent length rod, to get that distance. And the other reason, which is one of the main ones, is because a lot of Boddington, you've got this bank behind you, and obviously summertime you're even further down because the water's lower. So having that slightly longer rod just aids with your casting, means you're not catching stuff behind you all the time, means you can get out to where you want to get out. So you don't always have to go right out. I mean, sometimes the fish could only be like 10 meters out, but you know, with a 12-foot pellet wag, you've then got the option if you need to go out further. So that's one rod I have set up. Another rod I always set up in conjunction with it, obviously, is the bomb rod, bomb and pellet. Obviously, it just goes with a pellet wag rod, and I'll explain why in a minute when I talk about my approach. But I'll just use the 11-foot power feeder special, highest version. Like I say, it's an 11-foot. It doesn't need to be any bigger than that. You're not casting any further than your pellet wag distance. So where you're pinging your pellets, that's where you need to be putting your bomb and pellet as well. So you need to be fishing over the top of them. So you're really not going to be going any further than 30 metres, and that's an ideal rod for that. And it's absolutely, it's a fantastic rod. But yeah, I'd say it's probably my favourite rod out of all of the range. So yeah, so that's the 11-foot power feeder special highest version. Fishing a bomb and pellet. And then the only other rod I normally set up is a method rod, a bit like what I'm doing today, but I normally use the 13-foot power feeder distance rod, highest version again, all with the abbreviated butts. All my rods have the abbreviated butts now, just because I can feel a lot more through the rod. But yeah, the reason I go for a 13-foot is because you just don't quite know how far them fish are going to push out. Summertime, the fish are definitely not out as far as what they are winter time, but you know, in matches you get a lot of anglers, you know, and the fish just push further and further and further out. With a 13-foot, it just gives you that option if you want to chuck it 80, 90 metres plus if you need to, but at least you've got those options. So they're the 3 rods I use. Like I say, I've written a bit of a script here, so know what I'm talking about. So just going to talk about my approach now. Summertime at Boddington's. So one of the first things I do when I get here is I come and have a look at the water before I even unload my car. Just want to see if there's fish feeding on top. There's a lot of carp in here, and once the weather's warm, that water gets to a certain temperature, they all come up onto the surface feeding. And so if you know what peg you're on, as soon as you get to your peg, before you get any of your tackle out, just stand there and have a look at the water for a while, because it may well be you can see them at 25 metres and there's nothing at sort of like 10, 15, 20 metres, but they might be 25, 30 metres. You can see the odd fish coming up feeding. So you know that the fish are up in the water, and that's a key thing. There's 2 ways of thinking in regards to pellet wag. A lot of people, I think, used to have the opinion that once you start fishing, just keep feeding it with the catapult. You're just pinging out 8 mils or 11 mil pellets, but don't fish it to start off with, just to get the fish to settle in that area. The problem I found with Boddington's is the guy next to you might just go straight out there with a pellet wag and start nicking 2 or 3 fish, and then you're 2 or 3 fish behind. And then by the time you sort of like get out there on it, they've spooked, they've gone, because he's had 2 or 3 and he's pushed them away. So my approach to Boddington's is, if I can see fish feeding on the surface, without a shadow of a doubt, I'll be going straight out on the pellet wag. So obviously the all-in comes, and then I'll get my catapult and I'll start feeding out pellets, and I'll put 2 or 3 pouches out there, probably with 4 or 5 pellets in, not many, and then I'll cast straight over the top of them and just see what happens. And I'll tend to fish that pellet wag probably for the first sort of 20 minutes, just to see if the fish are coming to it. And like I say, the distance I fish with it depends if I've seen fish feeding. If I haven't seen any fish feeding on the surface, I may not stick with it for 20 minutes. I might only do it for the first 10 minutes. But I will always go out there with that first couple of chucks on the pellet wag, because you can just nick an early fish, and it's happened so many times here in the summer, not just for me, but with lots of other anglers as well. So that's my approach. My first approach is to have a look at the water, see if you can see any feeding fish, and then obviously if you can, then that's where you want to be pinging your pellets out to, and that's where you want to be fishing your pellet wag over. Obviously for those first sort of 20 minutes, if you're not getting anything, you've been feeding pellets for, you know, a good sort of 20 minutes. Now it may well be that obviously them pellets are getting down to the bottom, and that's where the fish may well be feeding. So you're gonna really want to have a little look on that. So the next stage would be to move over to your bomb and pellet, and that can be deadly. If you've got the fish feeding on the bottom, get onto that bomb and pellet and the rod just won't stop going around. One of the key things I've sort of found when I move over to the bomb and pellet is liners. As long as you're getting liners and you know the fish are around. If you're not getting any liners at all, then you know them fish are not getting their heads down. I did a video a while ago. I fished the Boddington Classic final, and I had a really good peg, but I just could not get their heads down. They were just on the surface all day long, and they really didn't want to know either. It was a very warm day, and they just weren't interested. I won my section in the end with 4 fish, and they all come to the pellet wag in the end, but it was really hard work, but I just couldn't get their heads down. But 9 times out of 10, just keep feeding them pellets. You'll get their heads down. Their heads will come down, and then you can just start getting them on the bomb and pellet. And it's a much quicker, more effective way of fishing, I found anyway. But you have to keep firing the pellets out. Now, what I don't do is I don't sort of like put 6 or 7 pellets out every time. What I tend to do is first 3 pouches I've sort of put 4 or 5, maybe even 6 pellets. And as soon as I start fishing, I put no more than 3 in. And then sometimes I'll back off and I won't put any out there for a couple of casts, and then I'll put just another 3 pellets out there again. I don't feed a lot. Main reason being is I don't want them in a frenzy, because you tend to find you foul hook a lot of fish here. So all I'm doing is I'm just feeding little and often, and it just keeps them interested, and they tend to get the bites quicker. Whereas I find if you're pinging out too many pellets, you have to wait for your bites. Because there's just too many fish competing, and you end up, like I say, with lots of like knocks and dinks and donks and foul hookers as well. And it's exactly the same when I'm fishing. I don't change that pattern once I'm fishing on a bomb and pellet. I still only put a few pellets out there at a time. If I'm still not getting anything, you know, I've been out on the pellet wag, I've been out on the bomb and pellet, and I've not had no liners or anything. It means normally the fish are not around there, you know, they're further out. So what I tend to do is I just tend to sort of back off for maybe 20 minutes and not ping any pellets out, and then I'll go out on my method rod and fish my method feeder, and whatever distance, according to the peg that I'm in, it may well be that I'll fish at, you know, 45 metres, I might fish at 80 metres, it all depends. Invariably in the summertime you don't normally have to go out that far, so then what I do is I'll give that 20 minutes, and if that doesn't go round, I would then go back out on the pellet wag and just see if there's any fish on the surface. So I'd then start pinging out a few more pellets, and then if I have nothing on that, no looks or anything, no shows of any fish, I'll go back out on the bomb. And then what I tend to do is I just tend to keep alternating between those 3 methods until I start seeing some indications of fish. Normally in the summer that don't take that long, to be fair, but it can do. Sometimes it can be very hard, but you normally start seeing some fish to give you confidence of what method really you should be sticking out on. But also what you don't want to do is overfish a method. So if you catch 2 or 3 on a pellet wag and then you find it's getting a bit finicky, come off of it, go back on the bomb, and then fish the bomb for a while. You might have 1 or 2 on the bomb, and then it gets finicky, come off that, go back on the pellet wag again. So that's what I tend to do. I alternate between those 2 lines predominantly. It's not very often I have to go on to the method feeder, to be honest with you. I normally get them to come to the pellet wag or the bomb, but it is a good way of resting those lines. So yeah, that's really my approach. I don't if I go out on the bomb, and one of the other things I forgot to mention is I don't leave it out there any longer than 5 minutes. And I still use my stopwatch, so I'll chuck it out there, leave it out there for 5 minutes, and then if it doesn't go round, I bring it in, cast it back over the top again. It's amazing how many bites you get literally as soon as you cast it out there. It just hits the bottom, wallop, it goes round. The carp seem to like follow the pellet down. So that's another thing I do, another little trick. I don't tend to leave it out there too long. And same with the pellet wag. It's not something I cast out there and just leave it out there. It's literally out there, and as soon as your line starts going a little bit slack on the end of the rod, I give it another little reel, ping out another pellet full. If it doesn't go, give it another little reel, ping out another pellet full. If it doesn't go, it then comes in, cast it out again. So you're constantly moving. It's a constantly active way of fishing, which is completely opposite of what we got today in the winter approach. Yeah, and the only time really you're sitting on your hands a little bit is if you then put the method feeder out there, but like I say, that really wouldn't be for any longer than, you know, maybe 10-15 minutes, certainly no longer than that. Normally 10 minutes, I'll do 2 10-minute casts on it. If I don't get anything, then I'll start going back on the bomb and pellet again, and the pellet wag. So that's my approach for summer fishing Boddingtons. And like I say, the key things are, when you get there, is to have a look, because that will tell you a hell of a lot. You know, if you can see fish, even if they're not right in front of you, they could be 2 pegs down.
But it doesn't matter, because you can, them fish are going to move. They're going to migrate from one swim to the next, and they could literally just go around in a big circle. You tend to find that some people sort of like 3 or 4 pegs are starting to catch, and then all of a sudden the guy next to you does, and all of a sudden you do. So yeah, don't be dismayed if you can't see the fish right in front of you. Still keep feeding, because they will move in. There's a hell of a lot of fish in here. So anyway, I hope that's helped a lot of you that are interested in fishing here in the summertime. That's my way of fishing. Obviously I've got a couple of videos out there, you can have a look, but obviously I never normally have the time to sort of drill down and go into the approach. In relation to terminal tackle, if you look at the video I done, I think it was for the final with the Angling Trust, I went into it a little bit more detail then just before the match. So have a look at that if you want to sort of drill down onto the terminal tackle. But I'm sure I'll be doing plenty more videos down there. Anyway, that's now been out there 44 minutes now. So we've got another minute, and if that don't go around, that's coming in. I'm going to go for another cast. So I shall yeah, hopefully come back to you with a fish on. See you soon. Well, just over 2 hours in, and I've not had a pull yet. Yeah, it's very quiet. Tony on the end peg on 56, he's just had one. 2 pegs to my right's playing one as we speak, and the guy next to him's had one, which is the other sort of like end peg of our section. So yeah, assuming he gets that one in, he's still playing it at the moment. That's 3 fish caught in our section. Yeah, the rest of us obviously haven't had a pull yet. My partner, I believe, has definitely had a fish, if not 3, because I'm hearing conflicting information at the moment. So yeah, pressure's on me to get one really. With the ringers pairs, it's no good one of you catching fish. You've both got to catch fish, otherwise it don't count. So your partner could win the whole match, have 2 300-pounder fish. If you don't catch anything, then it doesn't count. So yeah, I've got to get this tip to go round. So fingers crossed. Yeah, going to struggle filming this. We've got 3.5 hours to go. So, but I'm going to struggle filming all of it today, because this cold weather is absolutely killing my batteries on my camera. So I'll try and get as much as I can. So I'll come back to you soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed, with a fish on. Well, guys, 1:45, so got an hour and 3/4 left, and I still haven't had a pull. Yeah, I'm just beyond 90 metres now. That guy directly to my left's had 1 small common. Tony on the end peg now, he's had 2. Both of them mirrors. Guy to my right hasn't had a pull, and then the guy to his right's had 1, and the guy on the other end of our section, he's had 2. So there's been a few fish come out, but not on my rod, unfortunately. My partner Mark's, he's had 4 now, so he's doing okay. I think someone else in his section, the guy next to him, Joe Jagger, has had 4 as well. So but Tony's his partner, and he's caught. So yeah, it's a bit of a struggle for me, but yeah, I really do need to catch a fish, have a chance of getting into some decent points and getting on the scoreboard, get some winnings. But at the minute it's looking a bit grim. I knew it was going to be hard, but like I say, I'm just beyond 90 metres now. I'll just keep creeping out, and hopefully it'll go round. So still time yet. Anyway, come back to you soon, hopefully, please, with a fish on. Well, would you believe, an hour to go and it's gone round. Been leaving it up to 45 minutes. And that one was only out there 14 minutes. It's out a long way. But I'll, as long as the battery lasts, I'll keep recording. I even had my pork pie and cup of tea and it didn't go round. It wasn't that long ago. It does take a long time to reel them in when you're casting over 90 metres. So this rod I'm using here is the 14 foot highest distance power feeder, and it's a beast of a rod, but I'm not sure how much you can actually see, but it's still got plenty of give in it. It still plays the fish really well. Obviously I've got the rod tucked under my arm at the moment because of the distance I'm out, but if I got that on my arm, because obviously I've got the abbreviated butt, I really feel every lunge of this fish, even through a big 14 foot distance feeder rod. Right, that's my shock leader come through my eyes. Biggest cheer of the day. Must admit I did moan that one on. I thought I was looking at a blank. God. You just seen how lightly that was hooked. Oh my good God. If that hadn't gone in the net first time, that would have come off. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh, at last. Whoops. Knocked my flask over. Saved the blank. Right. See if there's another one out there. There you go. Come back to you in a bit. Righto, that's it. He didn't go round again. But at least I had that one anyway, which was good. So I shall try and film the weigh in. It's obviously a little bit difficult because it's sort of social distancing, but I'll give it a go. See what it looks like. I shall come back to you then when I'm weighing the fish in. I don't know how many more Mark's caught, if he's caught any more. So, but quite where that one fish is going to put me in this section, I don't know, because everyone's caught. So it's just going to come down to the size of fish. So the guy to my right, I know, caught quite a big fish. So there's a chap to my left, I'm not quite sure. I'm hoping mine's a bit bigger than his. So we'll see at the weigh-in. Anyway, come back to you in a bit.
Mark's had a few, hasn't he?
I knew he'd had 4. He's had any more or not.
I think Joe's got 8 next to him. I heard he fell in, yeah. Well, at least it was a warm day to fall in on. It's a little bit bigger than the one next door, I think. Yeah. 10, 12. Let me just write that.
There's one other fish in my section on 78.
Everyone else is dry. I think there's 3 single fish in the 80s. Shows how good I am. I thought I've only just kept up with you with your 3. Oh, every time I press with you here. How's that? Yeah. Cheers, Steve, thank you. Oh. So then guys, I don't quite know how my partner's done. I will give him a call, but yeah, that one fish went 10-12. So I think next door's is bigger than mine, but it was bigger than his, so I haven't come last in the section anyway. So let's just hope we've got enough points to get in the money today. So I shall, yeah, come back to you with a bit of a summary later. Cheers. Right guys, hopefully you can see me. As you can see, typical winter fishing. You arrive in the dark and you go home in the dark. So, well, for all you guys that are keen anyway. So yeah, interesting day. Yeah, not a lot of fish caught anywhere really. Joe Jagger had the best net of fish, I think, on the lake. He had 8 carp for 80 something pounds. So well done, Joe. My partner sat in the peg next to him, Mark Leader. He's had 5 carp for 50 something odd pound. I think that's the second biggest weight of the day. So well done, Mark. Just glad I managed to sneak one out. So we can sort of get in the points. We've got, he's come second, I've come fourth, so we've got 6 points. Because obviously everything's done online now, so we'll have to wait to see where that ends up. Hopefully we might be in the money with a bit of luck. We ain't going to be far from it anyway. But yeah, really nice day. It weren't too cold in the end, to be fair, but yeah, poor old Mark fell in right at the beginning, so he was a bit chilly. Yeah, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed all the information I've given you about the rods. Gives you a bit of a better understanding of why I've moved over to them, and obviously why quite a few other people are moving over to them. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please hit subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the swim soon. Bye.